Ellie had always been stubborn, not in a mean way, just in the way that teenagers often are, caught between the need for independence and the quiet comfort of knowing someone loves them unconditionally. Every night, her mother had the same routine. She'd peek into Ellie's room, whisper,
"Goodnight, sweetheart."
and wait for Ellie's response. It was a ritual that never changed, no matter how old Ellie got.
Mom, I'm not a kid anymore.
Her mother would only smile and say,
No one's ever too old for love.
it was such a small thing, just 2 words, but to her mother it meant something. Ellie never really understood why. Some nights, she would say, "Goodnight, Mom," without a second thought. Other nights, she'd mumble it distractedly, her attention buried in her phone. But she always said it. Until the night she didn't. That evening had started like any other. Homework was piling up, her friends were blowing up the group chat, and her mother was nagging her about something Ellie didn't even care to remember. It was something small, maybe her shoes left in the hallway, maybe forgetting to take out the trash. Whatever it was, it felt huge in the moment, as small things often do when tempers flare.
Ellie, I asked you to do one simple thing.
Her mother had said, exasperated.
Why do you always make such a big deal out of everything?
Ellie shot back, her voice sharper than she intended. Her mother sighed, the way she always did when she was frustrated but didn't want to argue. Later that night, as Ellie lay in bed, her mother peeked into her room like always.
"Goodnight, sweetheart."
She said softly, but Ellie, still annoyed, turned away and pulled the covers over her shoulder. She didn't answer. For the first time in her life, she didn't say it back. Her mother hesitated for a moment, as if waiting for her daughter to change her mind, then finally whispered,
"I love you."
Ellie stayed silent. The next morning, she woke up to the sound of muffled voices. Something felt off. The house was too quiet, yet the air felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Then her bedroom door opened. Her father stood there, his face pale, his eyes swollen and red. Ellie sat up, instantly uneasy.
Dad, what's wrong?
He sat on the edge of her bed, his hands shaking. He took a breath, but the words caught in his throat.
Mom had a heart attack last night.
He finally whispered.
She didn't make it.
For a moment, Ellie thought she had misheard him. The words didn't make sense. They couldn't be real. Her mother had been fine. They had argued. She had just said goodnight.
No.
She felt the room spinning, her breath shallow.
This isn't happening. This isn't real.
Ellie scrambled out of bed and ran down the hall. She stopped at the door to her parents' bedroom, her heart hammering in her chest. It was empty. Her mother's side of the bed was untouched, as if waiting for someone to return, but no one would. Ellie collapsed onto the floor, sobs racking her body. Memories flooded her mind, her mother brushing her hair, singing softly in the kitchen, holding her hand when she was sick, whispering,
"Goodnight, sweetheart."
and then the memory of last night. Her mother's voice.
"Goodnight, sweetheart."
Ellie clutched her chest, gasping for air as the realization hit her like a train.
I didn't say it back.
She choked out.
Oh God, I didn't say it back.
She pressed her hands against her face, whispering the words over and over, as if somehow they could reach her mother now.
I love you, Mom. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Her mother had gone to sleep thinking her daughter was angry with her. She had whispered, "I love you" one last time, and Ellie had let silence be her final answer. There would be no do-over, no second chance, no next time. She had spent years rolling her eyes at her mother's insistence that no one was too old to say goodnight. Now, she wished she could go back to every single time she had mumbled those words without thinking. Now, she wished she could say them one more time. But some things can't be undone. Moral of the story. A single moment can become a lifetime of regret. Always say goodnight, always say I love you. Never assume there will be another chance, because one day there won't be.